Ryan Voss had always imagined that if he ever stood before the Illyrian throne, he'd be wearing something impressive, perhaps a shimmering diplomatic uniform, or at least pants without a scorch mark across the knee. Instead, he was herded into the crystalline hall wearing the same jumpsuit he'd spilled reactor coolant tea on that morning. The stain glowed faintly, which unfortunately made it look intentional, as though he were trying to accessorize with radioactive fashion. The hall itself hummed with an energy so ancient and refined that even sound seemed to bow before it. Columns of living metal twisted upward like frozen lightning, pulsing with slow bioluminescent veins. And on the central dais stood Queen Seralith, ruler of the Illyrian Empire, destroyer of empires, defier of wormholes, and if rumors were true, occasional collector of rare soaps. She looked almost human, almost familiar, except for her long, elegant ears that swept back like crescent blades, shifting subtly with each flicker of her mood. Right now, they were angled forward, which Ryan had learned meant intense focus. On him, "Human liaison Ryan Voss," she announced, her voice echoing through the crystalline chamber like warm thunder. "You stand accused of, well, many things, but we shall begin with the fruit." Ah, yes, the fruit. The glowing orb he'd mistakenly presented during a diplomatic dinner, thinking it was a ceremonial gift. Technically, it was ceremonial. The ceremony just happened to involve throwing it into a star as a symbolic gesture of humility. He had taken a bite instead, right in front of the Illyrian High Council. It had not been his finest moment. Ryan cleared his throat. "In my defense, Your Radiance, humans interpret glowing food as more of a buffet feature." Her ears twitched once. That was either amusement or the prelude to vaporizing him, hard to tell. "You embarrass the Grand Spearest," she said. "He has not recovered." Ryan winced. Is he still hissing at everyone? "He has taken a vow of silence," she replied, then added, "a vow he breaks only to complain about you." He opened his mouth to apologize again, but she raised a hand, slender, luminescent, impossibly graceful. "Despite that, I suspect your intentions were not dishonorable, simply foolish." "That's basically the slogan of the human species," Ryan said. A few guards coughed in what sounded suspiciously like suppressed laughter. Seralith's ears tilted back slightly, a sign he recognized as curiosity or mischief. He wasn't sure which one worried him more. She stepped down from the dais, her robe of woven starlight whispering across the crystalline floor. Up close, she was even more overwhelming. Her eyes, silver with flecks of shifting blue, glowed softly in a way that made him feel like he was being carefully studied and gently roasted at the same time. "You have caused diplomatic confusion," she said. "You have disrupted protocol. You have eaten things you should not have eaten. And you have unknowingly participated in a ritual reserved for celestial supplication." "Is that the one with the fruit or the one with the dancing?" Ryan asked. "The fruit." "Oh, good. I'm still pretending the dancing never happened." Her ears flicked again, this time unmistakably in amusement. "And yet," she continued, her voice dropping just slightly, "you did not lie, you did not deflect blame, you simply panicked loudly." "In multiple languages," he added, proud of that part. "Yes, including one we do not recognize." Ryan winced. That might have just been me choking. "And despite all this," she said, stepping close enough that he could see the faint, shimmering constellations embedded in her skin, "you remain sincere, and sincerity is rare among envoys." She paused, then added in a tone that somehow carried both regal authority and the casual boldness of someone ordering dessert. "If you were single, human, I'd give you my number." The hall froze. Guards stared straight ahead with the intensity of beings trying not to exist. A minister dropped her datapad, letting it clatter across the crystalline floor. Someone in the back whispered something that sounded suspiciously like, "By the moons." Ryan blinked. Once, twice. His brain attempted to reboot, failed, and displayed an emotional error message. Your Radiance, I'm flattered, but also confused, and also very aware that flirting during a reprimand feels like a trap." She smiled, not a political smile, not a ceremonial smile, but something warm and unexpectedly playful. Her ears softened, curving gracefully. "Perhaps it is," she said. "Perhaps not." That, Ryan murmured, does not help. She turned slightly, gesturing for the guards to step back. Your punishment, she declared, is to remain in my service until further notice. I find your presence interesting. In a scientific curiosity sense, or a please don't eat glowing fruit again sense. In all senses, she said, and for a moment her gaze lingered on him in a way that sent heat crawling up the back of his neck. You may go, for now. Ryan bowed quickly, nearly tripping over his radioactive knee stain. As he walked out of the hall, he glanced back just once. The Queen was still watching him, ears tilted in that curious, unreadable angle. He had come expecting punishment. Instead, he had somehow walked out with a monarch's attention, which, historically speaking, was far more dangerous. Ryan Voss woke the next morning to the sound of his translator orb having what could only be described as an emotional meltdown. It hovered above his bunk, flashing colors that were definitely not in the manual and sputtering out half-formed phrases like a drunken poet. Good, more plank, danger, handsome, recalibrating. Ryan rubbed his face. Great. Even my technology is flirting with me now. The Illyrian flagship had assigned him new quarters after yesterday's incident. They were larger, sleeker, more comfortable, and clearly designed for someone who had not recently bitten sacred fruit. The walls shimmered faintly with embedded star motes. The air moved with the soft pulse of the ship's living infrastructure, and the shower had 3 settings he understood, and 12 he absolutely did not. He had just finished negotiating with the shower, which insisted on misting him with a scent that smelled suspiciously like royal perfume, when the door chimed. The panel slid open to reveal Ambassador Talthier, a slender Illyrian with long golden ears and a permanent expression of diplomatic exhaustion. Human Voss, Talthier said, stepping inside with the exasperation of a man entering the scene of a recurring disaster. Her radiance has summoned you. Ryan groaned. Already, I haven't even had breakfast. Talthier blinked. Humans require food this early. We require food all the time, actually. It's how we stay harmless. That has not been my experience, Talthier muttered. Come along. They walked through the starlit corridors of the ship. Bioluminescent symbols drifted across the walls like floating script, constantly reorganizing as the ship processed data. Ryan tried not to touch anything. Last time he did, the ship interpreted it as a voting gesture, and he accidentally endorsed a proposal about asteroid zoning laws. As they approached the council chamber, Ryan could already hear voices, sharp, anxious, and very much discussing him. The doors parted, revealing a room full of advisors clustered around a display projecting his face at enormous scale. Someone had drawn warning symbols around it. Oh, perfect, Ryan muttered. I've become a traffic hazard. Queen Sarilith stood at the center, radiant in a robe of shifting gold and white starlight, her long ears angled upward in attention. The moment she saw Ryan, her expression softened in a way that made several ministers lose composure simultaneously. Human Voss, she said warmly, you are just in time. For what? He asked, bracing himself. For the council's attempt to decide whether my remark yesterday constitutes a diplomatic incident. Ryan stared. You mean the number thing? A minister made a strangled sound. Another fainted. Talthier pinched the bridge of his nose. Sarilith's ears curved with amusement. Yes, some believe I overstepped protocol. Ryan raised a hand. For the record, I also believe that. Your belief is noted, she said, and ignored. The room collectively groaned. Ryan wasn't sure if this was normal, or if he had simply become the flagship's primary source of cardio for political staff. One of the advisors stepped forward. Your Radiance, we must consider the implications. Flirtation during reprimand breaks 8 sections of imperial conduct, and humans are unpredictable. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it, and quietly decided that starting a sentence with, well, actually, we're very predictable when snacks are involved, would probably not help. Sarilith gestured for silence. We will not debate my personal remarks further. Instead, we will discuss something far more urgent. The display shifted to show the glowing fruit Ryan had bitten into. It rotated slowly, ominously, like a piece of produce on trial. This fruit, she said, is now the center of a misunderstanding with the Spirasti Dominion. Talthir added, they believe the human's bite was a symbolic declaration of dominance. Ryan threw his hands in the air. Why does everything I touch turn into interstellar chaos? You touched the diplomatic garden drone yesterday, Talthir reminded him. It exploded. It bloomed, Sarilith corrected gently. Violently. She stepped closer to him, her presence warm and strangely grounding. You will accompany me to the negotiation summit to clarify your intentions. Ryan gulped, me with them. You were the catalyst. You shall be the antidote. Her ears lifted slightly, a sign she was amused again. Besides, I find your improvisations entertaining. Entertaining is not the same as helpful, he muttered. Perhaps not, but often one becomes the other. The council watched them closely, some horrified, some intrigued. Ryan noticed one advisor discreetly taking notes about Sarilith's ear movements, as if trying to decode her emotional frequency. Before he could ask questions, like whether he would be safe or whether Spirasti leaders also communicated by hissing, Sarilith leaned in slightly. You need not fear them, she said softly. You will stand beside me. Ryan tried to steady his breathing. I don't suppose standing slightly behind you is an option. None whatsoever. Her lips curved just enough to fluster him. Now prepare yourself. The summit begins soon. As he left the chamber, Talthir whispered urgently, do not let her ears distract you. It gives her an advantage. That feels like unfair biology, Ryan hissed. That, Talthir said grimly, is exactly the problem. And as they walked, the translator orb floated beside him, still glitching, still whispering nonsense. But every so often, it emitted one perfectly clear phrase. Warning, emotional interference detected. Ryan wasn't sure if it meant his emotions or the Queen's. He suspected the ship didn't know either. The Spirasti summit took place aboard a neutral station suspended in a pocket of folded space, where gravity shifted politely instead of aggressively, and the walls shimmered with the soft glow of dimensional currents. Ryan tried very hard to walk in a straight line, but the station gently disagreed with him, nudging him sideways every few steps like an overfamiliar friend. Sarilith, of course, moved with absolute grace, long ears gliding behind her like silver sails. Try leaning left, she murmured. The station favors confidence. I'm trying. Ryan hissed as he drifted half a meter toward a decorative column. I just don't have gravitational charisma. A Spirasti envoy clicked in disapproval as he passed. Another flattened its frills and whispered something that Ryan was fairly sure was rude, given the way Talthir winced. The room was filling with tension, sharp, cold, and coiling like a metallic vine. The fruit incident had insulted their spiritual traditions, and the Spirasti were not known for forgiving easily. Sarilith stepped forward to greet them, posture regal and unshakable. Honored Spirasti, she began, we come to resolve this matter in peace. One of the towering Spirasti leaders hissed, your human consumed the orb of supplication. This is an affront not only to us, but to the stars. Ryan lifted a hand weakly. In my defense, it smelled like citrus. The hissing intensified. A frill fluttered violently. Talthir made a noise that suggested he had given up on living. Sarilith placed a calming hand toward the crowd. He meant no disrespect. Humans bite things, frequently. Hey, Ryan muttered, it's a cultural instinct. And yet, a Spirasti leader growled, the act carries cosmic symbolism. It must be addressed. Sarilith nodded to Ryan, giving him that look she'd given him before, a steadying gaze that said try, even if you fall on your face. He took a breath and stepped forward. Look, he began, I'm new to all this. I didn't grow up with star rituals or glowing fruit or spiritual symbolism. I grew up on a planet where the most sacred object at the dinner table is the last slice of pizza. I didn't bite your fruit to challenge anyone. I did it because I was nervous and forgetful and because humans do stupid things when put under pressure. But we also try to fix our mistakes. Honestly. Directly. Even if we're not sure how. The Spirasti murmured among themselves, confused by the unfamiliar sincerity. Ryan pressed on, heart pounding. If my bite changed anything symbolically, then let it be this. A gesture that we want to understand you better. That we want to learn your customs. or at least stop accidentally insulting them. I'm not here to dominate or disrespect. I'm here because your traditions matter. And because, he glanced at Sarilith, because I've learned a lot about honesty lately, even when it's awkward. Her ears softened in a warm, unmistakable way. A long silence followed. Finally, one Spirasti stepped forward and extended a ceremonial orb etched with spirals of light. If the human speaks truth, it said, let him perform the ritual of return. Talthir whispered urgently, just touch it gently. Do not bite it. Ryan nodded solemnly, placed both hands on the orb, and bowed, carefully copying the gesture Sarilith had shown him on the shuttle. The orb pulsed with soft cyan light, then drifted upward and dissolved into tiny motes swirling like captured stardust. The Spirasti frills relaxed. The insult is forgiven, the leader declared. Ryan sagged with relief. Talthir collapsed against a wall. Someone applauded. Ryan hoped it was for him and not for the orb's magical special effects. As the summit came to a close, Sarilith guided Ryan toward a quiet corridor of folded space where the colors of the spectrum drifted like watercolor smoke. For a moment, they simply stood there, letting the calm settle over them. You handled yourself well, she said. You spoke with honesty and courage. I spoke with panic, he corrected, but I guess panic can be articulate. Her smile warmed the air between them. You have changed. When we first met, you feared every misstep. I still do. Yet now you walk forward anyway. He shrugged. I had a good teacher. Her long ears arched slightly, a gesture he'd come to recognize as her version of blushing. The council will be relieved, she said softly. And the Spirasti will remember your effort. Their culture values humility. Oh, good, he said. Humility is my strongest trait, right after clumsiness. And sincerity, she added. They walked back toward the docking bay. The translator orb floated beside them, humming in a more stable rhythm now. Every so often, it emitted a soft chime, as if approving the quiet peace settling around them. Before they reached the shuttle, Sarilith stopped. Ryan, she said, her voice gentle in a way he'd rarely heard. When I said I would give you my number, it was not merely a jest. He met her gaze, steady now, far steadier than during their first chaotic encounter. I know, he said, and I'm not the same terrified guy from the throne room anymore. Then perhaps, she said, her ears curving in a hopeful arc, you would accept it now. He smiled nervously on